recording here. All right, and we are. So hello, class, and welcome to week 3 of CE 129. I know it's a little confusing for everybody still, but remember, we're in week 3 of our restaurant management class, and we're in week 9 of our CU 101 class. Okay, so 2 separate classes. Make sure we all are understanding, comprehending that. If any one of my class has gotten messages from me, make sure you're all caught up if you can, right? There's only 2 knowledge checks that we've done so far. We've done 1 discussion, and we've done that SOP kind of put things in order assignment, and that's it, right? Plus all the reading that we're doing each and every week. So like I said, we're signing on, doing 30 minutes a day, at least, of reading and looking at our resources and things like that. So please, please, please make sure we are doing that. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking all about leadership and management. We're going to be talking briefly about making decisions. All right. There's a little reading material about that. I'm going to read it, but I also want everybody to understand that when it comes to making decisions, everybody's their own person. They make decisions, differently, but I'm going to kind of give you an overview of that. And then we're also going to talk about motivation. Okay. That's a big one in our industry. All right. Because as you'll see, being a cook is a hard job, right? It is very, very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any way and ever say, hey, being a cook, being a chef, so easy, so easy. All you got to do is work 16-hour days, 5-6 days a week sometimes, right? Being on your feet all day, carrying heavy objects, working with sharp objects, hot oil, fryer oil, kind of getting agitated with people, it's like, that is not easy. That is a very difficult job. All right. But we're going to talk about different ways to motivate, your staff, yourself, right? Things like that. So that's what tonight's all about. And what I like about this week is that, it's not just reading the material, because you all have it on your class page. You could go there, take a look at the slideshow. You could take a look at the reading material and all that. But what hopefully Chef Jamie and I can do for you tonight is kind of give you some experiences, both good and bad, from what we've had coming up. Right. I only started in the year 2000 is when I really started in the food industry. And even though, I guess in hindsight, it's a long time ago. I'm like 2000, that was yesterday. That wasn't, 21 years ago, but it was. But, in 2000, it was rough out there. People didn't treat people, chefs didn't treat cooks that nice. Right now in 2021, things are a little bit different, and we'll get into that. But we'll still kind of get you prepared for what's out there, what to expect, and how to respond and react. Okay, like I said, everyone's different. So what Chef Jamie and I are going to give to you tonight are just some basic guidelines, some basic simple practices, best practices to kind of help you in that restaurant industry or food industry. But it doesn't mean that that's exactly what you need to do, or that's exactly how you need to react to this, or whatever the case may be. All right. So almost immediately, Kaisha had a hand go up. So go ahead, Kaisha, and then we'll get going here. Do you have a question?
Sorry, Chef Nick, I'm at work. I'm sorry. Could you come back to me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine. All right, everybody. So here we go. Let's get into the material here real quick. All right, let's take a look here. So on your class page, you're going to find your week 3 lesson, right? You're going to have your learning outcomes, where we are going to be talking about learning and discussing the differences between a manager and a leader. Huge difference. There's nothing wrong with a manager. I'll tell you that right now. We all have them. We've all been there. You will forever have them in your lifetime, unless you're the owner of your own establishment. And then you got to hire a manager, right? They're needed, right? But there is a difference between a manager and a leader. Okay. And we're going to get into that. Again, we're going to study the best practices in decision making. Okay. Everybody's different. I'm going to say that a million times. So we're just going to briefly go over that. the way you go about making your decisions in your own establishment is going to be, up to you at the end of the day, right? We'll talk about delegation. We're going to talk about sous chefs, right? So a lot of people have never heard of the word sous chef before, and it's SOUS, not SUE. Okay, so it's not a boy named Sue, right? It is basically your assistant manager in the kitchen. And I want to talk about sous chefs a lot tonight because a lot of people never heard of sous chefs, but that is a very big role within our community, the culinary community. All right. And then we're going to, again, talk about what motivates employees. Spoiler alert, money's going to be at the top almost every time. But there is a lot more that goes into being motivated in a kitchen. And I'll tell you about that. Right. So, leadership, right? We talk about leadership. It consists of influencing people's behavior. Okay. As where management consists of making use of available resources. All right. So that's just a rough overview. So what does that mean, right? If you ever worked for a corporate company like myself, I did for a long time, right? You have managers that they know the SOPs, right? That we talked about, standard operating procedures. They know the rules, they know the regulations, they know the company standards, and they come in and their job is to really enforce those rules, right? Hopefully they're a decent person and they help you if you have questions and things like that, but they're there to really kind of set the structure in the environment. And not only is corporate dining corporate, right? I've been in restaurants that are owned by corporations. And so like you're sitting there. So I worked in the Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles in a giant restaurant. And so it's a restaurant that serves the public, but it's owned by a bigger corporation. And so we would get people in business suits all the time. Yeah, men and women, right, coming in and they're like trying to tell me what to do and like, oh, you're doing this. I'm like, who are you? Who are They're usually an executive, a man, a regional manager for the company, and they come in and they go, oh, make sure that you're prepping this amount and that you're doing this amount. They're not really chefs. They're just managers. They're there to set the tone for the rules and the regulations. All right. Now, a manager could also be a leader. A leader to me is more of that executive chef type of role. However, there's a caveat, right? A leader is someone who kind of gets in there with the crew, shows you how to do it, shows you how to get it done, and then helps in that process. They're there to, just like I said, it motivates you. It kind of gets you going in the right direction without just saying, oh, here's the rule, make sure you're following it. They go, hey, let me show you how it's done. Let me show you how to be successful. Right. And they're usually in the thick of things. Right. That's what I always like to be as a chef. I'm not just your boss, right, in a kitchen. I'm a teacher. I am a mentor. I'm a therapist. I'm a electrician. I'm I'm a mechanic. I'm all these things to everybody, right? They look to you almost as like a parent figure. So whether it's a mom figure, a dad figure, whatever the case may be, because sometimes you're working with cooks who they didn't have the best family life, but at work, that's their family, right? And so you get into that mentorship role. And so that's why I say a leadership, it's a lot of things. It's really, leading by example and getting people to emotionally kind of connect with you and follow you. All right. Because if I don't have a good relationship with my cooks, and we've all been there, right? Where I'm just going to say, you know what, Mary, I need you to brunoise this onion for me. Go ahead and do that. Right. And I'm just like, see you later. And her eyes are going to roll into the back of her head. Oh my God. Okay. But whatever, boom, boom, boom. Right. That's like a manager. And that's an employee relationship. I need you to brunoise this onion. Brunoise a cup. All right. See you later. Okay. But if I'm more like Mary, all right, we're going to brew up this onion. Let me show you how. We're going to do an eighth of an inch by an eighth of an inch cut. This, we need 2 cups. You got this. You rock it. If you need help, let me know. We're doing brunoise because this is going to be a garnish on this dish. And all of a sudden you start getting passionate about it, and you start getting passionate about your cooks and trying to help them and everything like that. All of a sudden, and I don't know you personally, Mary, so I don't know. Maybe you're just like, oh, cool, chef, yeah, right away, you know. And that's like a leadership, and hopefully you're building that rapport with your student, or you are my students, but your cooks and your staff, because there's a difference there, right? There's a difference between this is a job, and I'm just here to get my paycheck. Don't talk to me. I'm gonna roll my eyes every time you say anything, yada yada yada. And there's a difference between, hey everybody, we got service tonight. Let's feed these people. Let's make them happy. Let's make them excited about coming to our restaurant. And then one day you guys as cooks are going to be a chef, and I want to help you get there. And this, and the team's like, yeah, chef, let's go. Right. So that's the difference there. Right. And there are those environments out there to where it's gonna be strictly business and it's a job. And there's also jobs out there where I was so happy to walk in every day and learn something new and work with the chef and work with my coworkers. I mean, there's just nothing like it, right? You know, I love working with Chef Jamie sometimes, right? So that's the, you know, the kind of feeling that I get, you know, with teaching with Chef Jamie. It's not like, oh, here we go again, right? So there's a difference there. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have any questions about that, Chef Jamie? Anything to add there?
Yeah, as usual, I always have something to say, but I'll keep it short.
Please.
But you definitely hit it on the head. There's a huge difference between leaders and managers. And the biggest thing at the beginning there was, managers are going to manage resources. People are resources, employees are resources, the scheduling is a resource, the menus are a resource. They're going to just kind of do these things where they're going to work with what they have. Leadership, leaders are going to really inspire people and lead the way and show people how to do it, and they're going to have a certain amount of passion behind them and a certain amount of focus on people. This business is a lot of things, and above all, it's a people business. And that's something that we kind of talk about in this level right here. There's so many facets to the food industry, but it is a people business. If you can't get along with people, good luck. And leaders need to get along with people. They need to manage people in all different kinds. And Chef Nick mentioned, today I'm an electrician, today, tomorrow I'm going to be menu designer, the day after that I'm going to be a plumber. There is a lot of truth to that, where leadership teams, especially when you get into higher levels, need to wear a lot of different hats. And as we get into the class here tonight, Chef Nick's going to go through a bunch of different leadership styles, and he's going to talk about motivation. And the truth is, for me, without going too deep into it, it's all about results. What do we want the result to be for our business and for our employees? And if you focus on the results, you yourself as the leader have to do a lot of adapting, meaning taking on and off different hats to come up with different leadership styles to adapt to different employees. And when you figure that stuff out, that's how you can really lead a big team that have a lot of different people, because it takes all types to run these teams. And that's just a big takeaway from this particular night that I like to kind of throw out there.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to read you just a few things here that we have on the class page about leadership, right? Leadership traits, leadership skills, because we just talked about, being a leader. Again, nothing wrong with being a manager. There's plenty of managers out there, some good, some not so great. But a leadership, right? Responsible. Managers could be responsible too. They usually are responsible for a lot of things. Competent, right? Enthusiastic, ethical. So like when I walk into the kitchen with my staff, I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to show them the recipes. I'm ready to show them plating. I'm ready to show them, mise en place and everything like that. And I'm showing them the reasons behind it. Okay. It's not just brunoise this onion. Like I said, it's like, oh, this is the reason we're doing it. We have a garnish tonight on this plate, or whatever the case may be. Like, be excited. If you're going to be a chef one day, which I hope we all will get there, you need to be excited. You need to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. Even as a cook, going in as a line cook, or however you start in whatever direction you go to, be enthusiastic, right? You could be a leader and not be in a manager role too. There's nothing that says I'm the executive chef, I'm the only leader in the kitchen. No, some of my best leaders have been line cooks, sous chefs, people who aren't really at the top of the totem pole, so to speak, right? They're just like there to help the next person be better. Right? You should always be someone in your, in your kitchen that makes everyone around them better. You're working faster than everyone. Everyone else has got to keep up with you. your prep is better than everyone else's. They got to make sure that they're matching yours, right? So just keep that in mind, as you're a cook as well, or you're just, an hourly employee. Okay. You could be all of these things. All right. Communication key as a leader. That was always my biggest pet peeve with chefs and sous chefs when I was a line cook and a prep cook and things like that. I mean, communication is the biggest thing because I need to know what you want from me. I need to know how you want this prepped. I need to know how you want this cooked, how you want this plated, if that's the case, right? And sometimes chefs don't really communicate with their staff. They just kind of like give random gestures and things like that. And then it's not until you're doing something wrong that they'll come and yell, "Oh, why are you doing it like this?" So, it's like, well, if you would have just told me from the beginning, I wouldn't have done it wrong. So communication is key, right? Set clear goals. The goal for me every single night during a service is get through service, don't have anyone send back any food, really make the guests happy and not kill each other in the process. All right. Because it gets very stressful in that kitchen. All right. Select team members and develop their skills. There are going to be what's called steady eddies. All right. In this industry. Okay. They're people that come in, they punch their card, they work, they punch out their card, they go home. That's it. They collect their paycheck. They do not want to climb a ladder. They don't want to learn more. They just want to do their job. And they come in all ages. And you don't have to be, a young person, middle age, older, whatever. There's steady eddies everywhere. That's what they know. It's what they do. They're just there to collect their paycheck. See you later. If you see anyone in your kitchen and hopefully it's you, like we talked about, who maybe wants more, responsibilities, who, wants to grow, that's when you kind of take them under your wing, or you hoping that you get taken under someone's wing and you're always learning and growing, right? That was always me in the kitchen. I always want to learn and grow. And then once I was a chef, I'm looking out for who's that person that could be, my right-hand man or woman, right? So keep that in mind. You want to select certain team members and develop their skills. If they don't want that, that's okay. Just let them do their job. All right. Delegate and schedule, purchase materials and equipment, manage budget, supervise work. So that's when I say you're everything in that kitchen. You're making the schedules, you're doing the ordering, you're doing the inventory, you're doing the receiving, you're doing all these things. Okay. And there's a lot on your plate. But that's when we get into delegation, right? So any large enough kitchen, no matter what company you work for, restaurant, you should have a sous chef, right? So an assistant manager of the kitchen. So like Chef Jamie and I just talked about, we're wearing all these hats as a chef, not just our chef hat, right? So we're wearing all these hats. It's a lot. It could get to you, and it could get to you very quickly. All right. It's very stressful all the time. But if I have a sous chef that I could trust, hopefully it's that person that you kind of groomed and you trained and you kind of help them up and you develop their skills, right? Then all of a sudden you could say, "Hey, sous chef, I need you to do the ordering for me today." All right. And hopefully you would have trained them by then. I trained all my sous chefs to order like you were me. And I showed them step by step over the course of many, many months until I felt confident enough that they could do an order for me. I would double check their work usually, because you could always double check the order before it goes in, and everything like that. But that takes something off my plate. Receiving. Most of my cooks were trained in receiving product, looking at the product. Is it, quality? Is it moldy? Is it soggy? Is it wet? Is it this? Is it that? They start to learn that as you teach them. So now, all of a sudden, as a chef, you should still be looking at your product, but still, I'm like, okay, this person could do this. This person could do that. My sous chef can handle this. And now I get to focus on other things, right? Like decision making. And that's part of it. As a chef, you're making those decisions. Who's going to be doing my ordering? Who's going to be doing inventory? Who's going to be doing this, right? And so that's where, that decision making comes into play. I won't lie, to me, some of the biggest decision makings, and Chef, you could chime in here, was who to hire, who to fire. That was a big one, especially at the corporate level. I'll tell you this right now, our industry has a very high turnover rate, especially when it comes to cooks. All right. Usually, sous chefs, executive chefs, the higher you get up, the more likely you are to stay at a job longer, or try and move up within a company or whatever. But when it comes to cooks, some stay, some go, some you think are great to start and then don't work out. Some you're a little questionable about in the beginning and then turn out to be, rock stars. But it's a high turnover rate. And sometimes it's up to the chef to decide, maybe this person isn't working out. And it happens to me a lot, right? Oh boy, I don't know if, Abby's going to work out, and so you have to think about that. But Abby's great, so I know that. So I know that she's gonna be a rock star in my kitchen, right? But that's happened to me so many times. People show up late all the time. They have excuses all the time. Their work doesn't represent their resume, which we talked about in week 1, right? All of a sudden, ugh, this person is just not working out. Now, do I let them go now? Do I fill their position? Do I wait? Is it worth waiting? There's a lot that goes into it. All right. So let me show you real quick about the decision making. All right. And like I said, it's with a caveat, right? Because everybody makes decisions differently. But first, we'd like to identify the problem, right? Usually, like I said, with a cook, it's any of the above. Always tardy, doesn't work well in a team, slow, their mise en place isn't, up to par, whatever the case may be. There's multiple of issues with that cook. All right. And I'm going to use this as my guide over the decision making. All right. So you need to identify what's the issue. Is it a major issue where there's no way that this is going to change, or is this something that could be fixed? All right. Consider your options. All right. It's like I just said, if I let this person go, do I have someone to replace them? If I keep them on, are things going to get better? If I don't have anyone to replace them, how long until I get someone to replace them, right? How's it going to affect other departments? That's a huge one. If I let this person go, someone's going to have to cover that shift. And then usually you as the executive chef need to backfill somewhere. I got to do that so often where I let a person go, I move someone to that spot, and then I got to backfill as a cook until I find a cook to replace them, right? So you always want to weigh out your different options, all right? Make the decision. So this isn't the same as acting. You need to make up the decision in your mind. Okay, I've thought about the possibilities. I've thought about all, everything that could go right, everything that could go wrong. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and do this, right? And then you act. Always have a plan of action. Okay. So like I said, if I want to get rid of someone on a Monday and I have the whole week ahead of me, I have to think about that. I have to backfill that position all week. Or maybe I wait till Friday and give that whole week of me trying to find someone, right, to replace them. And then that way on Friday, I can let them go. And then over the weekend, maybe you have someone to fill that spot, or whatever the case may be. But once you act on it, you've acted on it. All right. And so there's no turning back. And then, like they say, hindsight is always 2020. All right. So you're evaluating the outcome of the decision. So after that, after you've made that decision, you go, okay, would I make the same decision in the future? Did this work out for me? Did it not work out so well? I've had plenty of times where a decision, was the right move. Maybe it didn't go about, the best way. I've had decisions go great, right? Where I make a decision, boom, I'm going to take this off the menu. I'm going to add that. And everyone loves it. Oh my gosh, my food cost is awesome. And I just made the best decision of my life, right? But when it comes to staffing and things like that, if there's, a cancer in the kitchen, it's usually going to be a good decision to get them out of there. But it's just about keeping, your other cooks, happy as well, and not piling on the work on them. All right. But once you've done that, you can say, okay, next time, what I'm going to do is this, or I'm going to do this next time, right? Or whatever the case may be. So that's a really good way to kind of look at decision making. All right. And then again, with the delegation, we are talking about having those people around you that you feel comfortable enough to give certain tasks to. And if you've done your job as a chef, as a manager, as a leader, right? It should be fairly easy. You pick out the best people, you give them that responsibility, and then that's a choice, that's a decision that you're making as well, and you're hoping it works out well. Even small, like people at the bottom, right? If a person just got hired, okay, new hires, dishwashers are very, very important people of the kitchen, but you could delegate a little something to them as well, right? So think about not only spreading major things out, but spreading some smaller responsibilities as well, and not just taking too much on your own plate, because that's a good way to get burnt out and stressed out and just like really go off the deep end. All right, Chef, you got anything to add per the usual?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah, going off the deep end is no fun. So watch out for that. And Chef Nick's right there. And we've all done it at one point, usually in our younger days when we're first kind of learning how to navigate a lot of this stuff. That's when the stress really builds quickly. But one thing in the excuse me, the decision making process there that was very important that I saw on the slides was, once you make a decision, yes, you're going to stick to it. But if you're wrong, own that and just accept that you're wrong, admit to it, and then maybe make a change of course of action. So sometimes, I thought that was a good lesson there, just about owning your own actions and being accountable to yourself, and holding yourself accountable for certain mistakes, because sometimes things don't work out the way they're supposed to. And remember, we talked about a lot about egos, and when you have an ego getting in the way, you might make a decision and just stick to it because that's the way you decided it. And it's like, you need to evaluate that stuff. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And you need to kind of own that decision and be able to, say you were wrong. So that's a really important part. And then the other part about delegation that Chef Nick was talking about, being able to delegate, it's very, very important. It takes you back to the results piece again, being results driven on your staff and what you need to do to get there. If you are doing all the things like Chef Nick said, if you're being a good leader and you're really inspiring people and you're showing them the correct methods and you're leading by example, yes, those things can be easy. And we've talked a lot about it. We talked a lot about it on Monday. But what was the number one rule for me when we were talking about staffing? Does anybody remember? Tom, you might remember. What's the number one word when it comes to building a team and staffing that you want to think about for being successful in the restaurant business?
Well, I said attitude, but I don't remember.
Well, you did say attitude. That was correct before. Retention, right? Retaining employees. Chef Nick mentioned turnover being extremely hard. When you retain your staff and you work very hard and you put those different hats on and different leadership styles and you get that team all riled up and firing on all cylinders, you can do two things there. One, your business is going to just organically get better because execution is going to get better. People are going to get better at their jobs. You're going to build more regulars, front of house staff, back of house staff, cross training. Scheduling gets easier, and the retention piece saves you money on top of it. So all these things start to kind of happen, but also you're going to take all of your low performing new employees and turn them into high performance employees who can be delegated to. So when you think about the difference between giving direction and delegating, it's a big difference right there. Giving direction, like Chef Nick was talking. Hey, Mary, we're going to do brunoise today. Here's how you do it. We're going to do brunoise, and you're going to go ahead and do that. And then why don't we go ahead and do this? I'm going to show you how to, this is how you sear. Okay, here we go. We're going to sear. Instead, you're going to be passing out lists to people. Hey, can you knock out this back of house prep list for me? Can you do the frontline prep? Can you go in and just reorganize the walk and you know what to do? So there's just like a lot of things to that retention piece. I won't go on and on about it, but it's just an important thing that I like to bring up a lot. Retention. Very good.
Very cool. Yeah, and so like I said, when it comes to the decision making, everybody's different. What I'm trying to say is think about your decisions before you act upon them. A lot of people, especially in a kitchen in the heat of a moment, might make a split decision just like that and come to regret it later, right? But you really want to think about it. I've had, like I said, I keep using, having, a cook that you're going to let go as an example piece, because it's a great way to talk about decision making. Because, you can have a cook that you just want to be like, get out of the kitchen now, you're done, right? But that's a split second, that's not thinking about it. It's just like, get out, and all of a sudden that's an immediate effect in the kitchen, especially if it's during service, during the middle of the week, even if it's the end of the night, middle of the week, you still have 2-3 more days to get through before you are ready for the next week or whatever the case may be. So a lot of things are happening, right? So whatever kind of leader and manager and chef and everything like that you are going to become, making those decisions is going to be very important. I highly recommend, like I said, thinking about what's going to happen before you just snap and make a decision. All right. So I just want to reiterate that. And then when we're talking about delegation as well, depending on how great of a sous chef or your staff that you have, even as an executive chef, you might still want to check in from time to time. I was never a big fan of delegating and then piecing out, right? Or just like going off and doing my own thing for the rest of the day. I'll pop in maybe once an hour and just be like, hey, how's that thing that I told you to do? Are you looking good? Do you have any questions for me? Can I see your progress? Something like that. You got it? Okay, bye. Okay, it's a good way to kind of still stay connected with the staff, make sure that what you're trying to get done, is achieved, but, still letting them do it, right? So you don't want to micromanage, you don't want to be over their shoulder, but just a quick check-in. Hey, how's that ordering coming through? Or whatever the case may be, and then you're off to do your other thing, okay? Because if you leave someone to do something and just like leave them to their own devices, things could go sideways quickly, and then it comes back on you. So even though I say, hey, sous chef, I need you to do the ordering. Okay, this is the list. This is what we need. Boom, boom, boom. And then the next day comes around, and I go, where's that case of broccoli that I asked you to order? Because we're doing this broccoli dish tomorrow. I didn't order broccoli. Well, why didn't you order broccoli? It was on the list. Oh, I forgot, or whatever. Like, oh, now it's on me as the chef saying, uh-oh, something happened there, right? And I didn't check in on it. I didn't double check that order. So keep that in mind as you are delegating. All right, Tom, you got a question?
My window moved. Thank you, Chef. I know things move fast in the kitchen, and when you hire someone, you tell them your expectations and their duties. But then there's the case of, coaching and nurturing your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about letting them go. At what point do you feel that they should go?
It's different for everyone. You'll know. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that. I can't just say, oh, this is exactly when you're going to know. But as a manager, myself and yourself and whoever else is a manager here or a chef or whatever, right? When you hire someone, like I'm very, like we talked about interviewing a few weeks ago, I am very like transparent in these interviews. I tell them exactly what I'm hiring them for. I talk about their job duties, the description, the schedule, everything like that. And then I tell them a little bit about myself. I say, this is who I am as a chef. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I expect. You always talk about expectations, and they're always sitting there nodding, yeah, that's me for sure, but then in that first week, you could really start to tell, is this person getting it? Are they understanding the job? Is their personality meshing within the kitchen? Are they being respectful to me? Are they being respectful to their peers, and to the food, and to the guest, and to everything, right? Like, are they fitting within my kitchen? All right. And then, and you'll just know. And then, if you see someone who maybe has some issues that maybe you could work with, you sit them down, you talk with them. It's all about that check-in. Hey, can we fix this? Can we work this out? This is what I'm seeing. And that's one thing I like to do. I like to check in on my staff often, not every day, not every hour, but so there's no surprises, right? So it's not like a month of them just being the worst employee and I go, wow, you were so awful this month, you're out of here, blah blah blah. It's like, if you start to see something that you don't like, stop right there. Hey, I noticed that you did XYZ. Can we just make sure that we're doing this, right? And I always tell my staff, if I'm getting on them often, I'm like, am I the jerk or are you the jerk? Right? If I have to get on you 10 times a day for this, am I the one who's being mean? Or are you not understanding it and you're not showing me the respect? And then as a manager, I would tell them, I don't cuss, I don't yell, I don't throw things. I'm not, Chef Ramsay in Hell's Kitchen, right? But I'm strict, I'm stern, and I, want to make sure we're getting the job done. And so I'm not going to throw anything at you. I'm going to write you up. All right, here's a write-up. Here's the documentation. There it is. If things don't change, we're going to have a second write-up and then a third write-up, and then you're gone. And I don't have to raise my voice. That expectation should be there. And then, if someone does something blatantly outrageous, right, like physical, punching, assault, whatever, stealing, things of that nature, like blows up on you and cusses you out, that's grounds for maybe being fired on the spot. But if it's something that you could work around, then maybe you have a conversation, then write-ups start to happen, and then a dismissal.
That was a great answer. To me, it's managing expectations. And, if people know what's expected and don't do it, either they can't do it or they don't want to do it. So you have recourse and, you have to document. So you're giving them a chance and letting them know they're falling down and ask for help if you need it. But, yep, great answer.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. All right. So I want to talk lastly here, and then we'll leave it open for a ton of more questions, everybody. All right. But what I want to talk about is motivation. All right. So we just talked about being a leader, right? Delegating, making decisions. I talked about, the kind of cooks that you might or might not have. I mean, for the most part, you're going to have some awesome people working for you, especially if you're doing the hiring. You get to choose your own staff. That's what's so great about it, right? You can see the fire in their eyes, the fire in their, in their heart, in their passion and things like that. All right. But once they get in there, okay, we're all human. So there's different types of motivation. Okay. So let's talk about it real quick. All right. Let me share my screen. Where was that page, Chef? Was that at the end here? All right. Motivation. All right. So here is the first part, fear. Okay. That's how a lot of kitchens are run when I was coming up, maybe when Chef Jamie was coming up. There's a chef in that kitchen. They rule with an iron fist. You say, yes, chef, no, chef. They tell you how it's done, and that's the end of it. And then if you talk back or you do anything out of line, you're out of there, or they cuss you out, throw things. I've been in those restaurants, right? When I did fine dining, that's a lot of the chefs that you see. Again, this was a long time ago. All right. But it's like, do the job or you're out. When I worked at the Michelin star French restaurant, it was one of the bigger restaurants, or fancier in LA. People wanted to work there. We had a lot of people work for free, right? They did the stages and apprenticeships and things like that, because it had that Michelin star, right? Oh my gosh. So everyone wants to work there. And so the chef knew that. And so it's like, this is how I'm going to do it. He was French. He was crazy, right? And if you don't like it, get out. Get out and never come back, right? So that's that fear. You don't like it, peace out, right? And then people are like, no, I want to stay. I want this on my resume. I want this, experience. And that's fear. And that's how some people run their businesses. All right. I think things have changed a little bit since then. Fear as being a motivating factor, hopefully is down at the bottom. But I think we all, whether you're have a job or anything like that, you don't want to get fired, and you don't want to, get told to hit the bricks. So there is that fear, but hopefully there's other things motivating you around it. All right. Carrot and stick, right? So it's like, hey, if you work hard, I'll give you this. Okay. And usually that's actually called the probationary period. At a lot of companies, right? They give you 60 to 90 days to really try out the company. They get to see how you work. At the end of that probationary period, you get benefits. Some people will give you a little bit of a bonus or a little bit of bump in pay, right? So it's like, hey, you're starting off at 14 bucks an hour, and if you pass the probationary period, you'll get 14.50. So it's saying you do good, and I'm going to give you this here at the end. All right, that's kind of the carrot and the stick. You're always trying to get to that carrot, so to speak. All right. Forced labor free. No, those aren't motivating factors for me. All right. So let's see here. Recognition. Recognition is a huge motivating factor for me in the kitchen. All right. I always liked to, there's an expression called catching your staff doing something right. Okay. And letting them know when they've done a good job. I loved this, this part of it, recognition, because it's like showing your staff, hey, you did a good job. Wow, that plating was great. Hey, those knife cuts are awesome. Oh, I saw you wash your hands properly. I would do simple stuff like that. Hey, I see your workstation is super clean and organized, and your mise en place looks great. Great job. So instead of me hounding them, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. Recognize the positive, okay? And you're gonna find that the morale in that kitchen is going to rise. If you're catching them doing things right, if you're recognizing them, if they had a great customer experience. I used to work in the corporate where it was face to face with the guest. So we're serving the food, we're cooking the food right then and there. If a guest comes up to me and goes, oh my gosh, that Chef Jamie just made the best dish for me, and he was so sweet, because that's what I used to get all the time. I would go right up to him, Chef Jamie, you just made that customer's day. And I would tell that guest, that's all Chef Jamie, that's not me. That's all them, right? And so I would make that relationship with the guests and our cook. Whatever you could do to recognize someone. Hey, you didn't show up late for a month. Awesome. You haven't called out sick, all year. Wow, people give awards for that stuff. Trust me. All right. So that's stuff that motivates people. Chef Nick told me I did this great, right? Or did this. That makes people want to work more to get more recognition. All right. Responsibility. We talked about delegating, giving people responsibilities. They all of a sudden feel a little bit, oh, I feel like a little bit more part of the team. I feel a little bit more like, Chef Nick trusts me, right? Because Chef Nick gave me this to do. Now it's up to me to do it. And so I'm going to rock it, knock it out of the park, right? I'm going to be a rock star. So that's a really good one. Responsibility, recognition. All right. Advancement. When you're in that corporate field, like I was in for a while, especially during the interviews, I say, hey, I work for a very large food company. You could always climb a ladder. You could grow with the company, move up, and people like that. People don't, unless you're a steady Eddie, people don't want to sit still for too long. 12 to 18 months is the general rule of thumb for like standing in one spot. And then you're like, okay, now what next? Now what's next? Give me more responsibility. Give me, a lead line cook, a sous chef position, right? And things like that. So that advancement, that climbing the ladder, so to speak. All right. We're all culinarians. The work itself should be enough, right? We're all here to cook food, right? Our job in this life is to feed people. We give them sustenance. Not a lot of people can say that. All right. I don't know about you, chef. When I tell people I'm a chef, they ask, what do you do for a living? I'm a chef. Whoa. Well, you're a chef? Oh my God. What's your favorite food? What do you like to cook? Tell me everything about food right now. If you ask someone what they do and they're like, I'm an accountant. Okay, cool. Oh, I have a lot of friends who are engineers. You're an engineer? Cool. What do you do? I do like this. Okay, cool. Right? I'm a chef. Oh my gosh. You're a chef. I feed people for a living. I make food. I help people survive each day. I give them experiences. Think about it, right? Because I use the restaurant industry a lot, but if you're a caterer, if you're a corporate, whatever, every day someone has to eat. right? We need food to survive. But not only is it about surviving, it's special occasions. When you think about birthdays, what's the cake I'm gonna have? What's my birthday meal gonna be? Anniversary, let's go out to dinner, sweetie. I'm gonna take you out to dinner. We're gonna go to a nice restaurant. It's an experience for them. So people coming into your restaurant, they're looking for that. They want that experience because they're not going to be there maybe every single day, but you need to get them to come back. Food is integrated into our lives, into our cultures, right? Different cultures have so many different types of food. Family. That's what we think about. If that doesn't get you excited about cooking, I don't know what there is to talk about here, right? Because like I said, I could talk about food all the live long day, any kind of food, right? My family's Italian, so I love Italian food. But I could talk French food. I could talk Asian food. I could go off on I can listen to people talk about their own food, right? So that's motivation for me, right? It gets me excited. And lastly is money, right? The almighty dollar talks. So even after all that, if that doesn't motivate you, here's some more money, right? All of a sudden, oh, I'm ready to go. I just got an extra $1, $2, whatever. If you're on salary, they bump you up so much. I mean, nothing motivates you maybe a little bit more than, what I just talked about, than a little extra quarter in your bank account, right? So those are motivating factors, right? But that's not all. There's a million different things that motivate people, for sure. But those are just some of my favorites. But does anybody have any questions about motivation? What motivates you guys? Right? I don't know if anyone wants to raise their hand. Let me know what motivates you. Let's see a hand go up. I know nobody here doesn't have anything that motivates them. Trevor.
Yeah, hey Chef, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Just from some of my experiences and just some of the other jobs, I work primarily a lot of construction, but a lot of things that I find that motivate people is not always money, and it's not always learning. It's just having a what's the best word for it? Just a good working relationship with the people you work with, like something that you get along with people. There's not a lot of bickering. Just a good, comfortable work environment that you just enjoy going to is just enough for some people. I mean, money always talks, but sometimes you get people to stay and get more employee retention by just having a good, comfortable workspace.
Yeah. Yeah, that's completely correct, Trevor. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I use that cook that's kind of the cancer in the kitchen as a explanation earlier. But yeah, I mean, no one wants to go into work and be like, oh, I gotta work with this person all day. I gotta work for this chef all day. So it's up to us as those leaders that I talked about to really harness that in the kitchen and make sure that it's a good work environment, a safe work environment, a place where people could come and learn and grow and enjoy, even if they don't want to grow, right? Like you said, Trevor, just maybe it's their home away from home. You're spending 8 hours usually minimum inside of these places. So you're seeing a lot of the people that you're with. So, you might as well make the best of it, and just really have, a good time if you can. If you get paid to have a good time and do something you love, like cook, I mean, there's nothing better than that. That's for sure.
Well, that's something that you kind of brought up right there is that, we're talking about leadership, but there's also portions of leadership that know that you are going to have some people that don't want to grow with the company that, let's just say you got a prep cook or a dishwasher, and that's just what they want to do. They want to come to work, they want to wash dishes, and they have no aspirations of going any further. And you got to be able to recognize that. And I mean, it's nothing against them, but you're going to have those people that just want to do that. You're going to have people that want to learn and grow. So I think it's important to, just because you don't have people that are, let's say, motivated to move up in your business, it's not always a bad thing either.
Yeah, exactly.
We just need them to be motivated to do an excellent job. when they're in the building and be a part of a solid team. And you mentioned work environment. There's nothing more important to me than a positive work environment. So 100%, that's what keeps people. You combine that with good pay and solid help and good leadership around them, it's a win. So when you're talking about retention, that's how you get there. And we need worker bees too. We need those people who just want to work. That's just, the whole world needs those people, but we also need the people who want to grow. So it's a good balance.
Exactly. Francisco.
Hey, so interesting. I've just, worked for a restaurant who the executive chef was not a leader at all. The sous chef was. So definitely he would always, show recognition. Even though I was in the front of house, bar manager, wine buyer, I still came into the kitchen. I sometimes had to do certain things, but he always, showed recognition and always was open to ideas. So that always motivated me, with someone opening up ideas, because sometimes the executive chef would not take anybody's ideas, but the sous chef did. And he would bring it to the owner, and then the executive, then, it kind of caused a little conflict with the executive chef. She ended up leaving, but it was really cool that he was willing to always show appreciation to other people and just willing to listen. And he was, just, it felt like, he was just like family in a way, like you said. He was just always pleasant to talk to and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one motivation for me. So
that's awesome. And I like that. I like that it came from the sous chef, right? So like I said, it doesn't have to be the executive chef or the owners or the manager or whatever. It could come from sous chefs. It could come from your colleagues, right? Like Trevor was saying, just being with other people and enjoying yourself, that could kind of give you some motivation too. But yeah, that's awesome. I think that's great. Sous chefs are the backbone in the kitchen. I mean, plain and simple. Because when you need to step out, because when you're executive chef, you realize how little time you are actually in the kitchen cooking, elbow to elbow with your cooks. You definitely do that, and you can, but there's just so many other aspects to running that restaurant, running that kitchen, that a strong sous chef is just as important. And then your cooks after that and everything like that. So that's great. That's awesome. Julie.
My motivation tends to be a little bit different. So I'll take you back a few decades. I won't tell you how far back, because that'll date me. But so I had a basketball coach when I was younger that was a complete asshole. And I won't get into all that, but I wanted to prove him wrong. So I was the youngest basketball commissioner for the rec program. I was the youngest female coach in a world that was dominated by men. I was undefeated against men, 20 years older than me at the time, for 3 years running. I was the youngest referee. And as a young girl back then, was a huge accomplishment. So I tend to be kind of stubborn. So if someone says I can't do something, I'm going to prove them wrong. And that tends to be a lot of what motivates me. So, and fast forward now, my motivation now is I want my husband and I to retire, and I want to move out of Wyoming. And, my kids are a great support, but they were like, Mom, you're kind of old. Are you sure you can do this? So I'm going to show them I can do it. So that's kind of what motivates me. I'm a little bit stubborn. I like to prove people wrong and prove myself wrong sometimes, that it, no matter what obstacle I might have in front of me, I'm going to overcome it.
Right. Yeah. And that's a motivating factor as well. If you feel like you're in a position, see, and this could be a little tricky to some people, right? Because if you feel you're in a position where people are like, you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that, right? And so you don't want to be in an environment that's going to make you feel uncomfortable and that you're put down or anything like that. But at the same time, I know where you're coming from, where it's like, you're not going to amount to this. You're not going to do this. And you're like, oh, watch me, right? And so there's that factor to it, of course. And you definitely want that, that kind of spark in you, I'm going to take this, world, by storm, or whatever the case may be. But also, if you're in a position where a chef's just constantly belittling you and put you down, you need to get away from that. Like I said, back when I was coming up, and again, Julia, I started in 2000, which we feel like it was yesterday, but it was 21 years ago. But when I was a cook in the kitchen, I got cussed out. I got, pushed. I've been physically pushed by my managers and the chefs, and like called names and this, that, and the other thing. And at the time I was like, this is it. This is the restaurant industry. This is what I signed up for, whatever, and I just kind of rolled with the punches. When I worked at the fine dining, I was like, I want this on my resume. I want to say I worked here and to say I did this. And like in hindsight, it's like, did I really need to put up with this for, a year of my life? Probably not, right? So, now in 2021, you tell someone to do something the wrong way and they're like, oh, you just didn't talk to me like that. I don't need to be treated like that. It's like now you have to like be careful with what you say and how you say it, right? And so, yeah, things have changed quite a bit. But I will say this to everybody. Sometimes you just need to put your head down and do the job, right? Not everyone's gonna be nice all the time. But if you're in a spot where you're feeling uncomfortable or that they're really just like being super disrespectful, you need to get out of that situation, find a better place for you. And you can still prove someone wrong by doing it somewhere else. And I've done that plenty of times where it's like, you're treating me like poo here, I'm gonna go over here, and now we're just gonna win a James Beard Award and your restaurant sucks. Bye. And so I've done that before. So
Well, that coach was probably 30 years older than me at the time. He made the newspaper for losing. He did not win one game in 3 years. So I did my own thing and was undefeated for 3 years. So it was kind of nice.
Very cool. That's there you go. Nothing's sweeter than revenge, but in a good way. When you come out on top in a positive manner. All right, real quick. I see Tom, you got your hand up. Keep it up. Okay, I'll stay after for a few minutes, but I do want to say we do have a discussion this week. All right, everybody, we have a discussion and a knowledge check. So it's about leadership. All right, something we just talked about in great depth. So you're going to list 2 examples of leadership that you've observed, one good and one bad. All right, so Julie's already writing about that coach, right? And you're going to give examples. Why were they good? Why were they bad? All right, and how the people involved reacted to the leadership style. Okay, and then you're going to do that. There should be 3, 4, 5 sentences. Okay, maybe even more. Then you're going to describe a time you had to make a leadership decision of your own. Now, if you've never been a manager, a chef, whatever, that's okay. Go personal. Okay, don't go crazy, but like think of a time in your own life that you had to make a leadership decision, whether it be at work or with a group of friends or your family or whatever. In hindsight, what would you have done differently and why? So this is a very deep discussion. So if you write 5 words and then you're done, guess what? You're going to get 1 or 2 points. Okay. Give me something that I go, wow, you get an 8. I wish I could have given you 10, but I can't give you 10. I can only give you 8. Why? Why can't I give you 10? Who knows the answer to this? I got plenty
because
of time.
we have to go and make a because we have to go and make a comment on other people.
How many?
To others too.
There you go.
People?
There you
Oh,
go.
okay.
Great job. All right, because you have to respond to 2 other students. So you're going to get 8 for giving me an awesome response to those 2 questions, because it's a lot. All right, those are big, heavy questions. So really put some time and thought into them. All right, then you're going to respond to 2 fellow students for a total of 10 points. All right, you also have a knowledge check this week. So we're in week 3. We are halfway there. But in the grand scheme of things, you only have 3 knowledge checks, 2 discussions, and that SOP assignment. Not a ton. So I want everyone to go back, double check, make sure you've completed everything. Because after this week, we are in the home stretch. Because same thing with our CU 101 classes. We only have about 2.5 weeks, or 3.5, I guess, from today left, because our week 6 will end on that Sunday, same as our CU 101 class. So we do not get that extra time together. So that's why it's so important in this class to stay on top of things, because we're not cooking. I'm not telling you to go out and buy anything and to get all these ingredients and to take time to cook something. That's what CU 101's for, right? We're in week 9. We should be sauteing, all right? In this class, take the time, do your discussion, do your knowledge check, do your reading. Done, right? You're ready to focus in on next week. Relax a little bit, all right? So get ahead of schedule. All right. I will see my class on Tuesday at noon Central for our bonus session. All right.
Okay.
Chef Jamie has his bonus live session Mondays at 6 p.m. Central, Chef. Is that correct? Right. So make sure you go there if you have any extra questions. And other than that, reach out to us. Everybody have a great night. See ya.
Bye.